Welcome to the Michael Blum Show, where we talk about things you don't want to talk about. We talk about sex. We talk about politics. We talk spirituality and substance abuse. Join us by calling 800-699-0980. Think, speak, and be heard. Here now is Michael Blum. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Michael Blum Show. It's a beautiful, balmy night here in Boca Raton, Florida. It is pouring outside. I'm hoping that the thunderstorm doesn't throw off our electricity. That would not be nice. I've been looking forward to this show for a long time, I got to tell you. We have a real brave person on the phone with us. This is an international show right now, folks. We're going to be talking to, my guest is actually in Spain. Of all places. So he's managed to stay up late. As I said, it must be that Red Bull, or as I think they call it there, Toro Rojo. But I have no idea at all. I want to actually just really get into it because I think that we shouldn't really waste time on my usual 5 cents worth of stuff about what's going on. If you want to know what's going on in the true media, it's Epstein, or whatever. And that's all that people are talking about politically. We had 2 years of basically Trump's a Russian spy, Trump's a Russian spy, Trump's a Russian spy, Next 2 years, it's going to be racist, white nationalist, racist, white nationalist, racist, white nationalist. So we've gone from the Russians are coming to the Nazis are coming, the Nazis are coming. That's the total news. That's all that you're going to hear out there, unless you're really, really picky and listening to specific shows and podcasts and other things the like, so that you actually will be able to hear about what's really important and going on. You know, while politicians futz around with garbage and nonsense, there's actually problems in this country that need to have some solution. And it would be nice if politicians spent as much time on the United States as they do on just absolute nonsense and craziness. And this evening, it's my pleasure. I'm going to be speaking this evening to somebody who is a retired DEA agent, who's risked his life for his country, who's going to tell us what's really going on in terms of cartels and drug and substance smuggling within the United States. He's written a book along with a few other friends, Jeffrey Pierce, Randy Torgerson, and Diane DeMille. I want to welcome to the Michael Blum Show, direct from Spain. That would be Larry Hardin. Larry, how you doing this morning, I guess, for you?
Yes, it is, Michael. Good morning. I just listened to you, and I tell you what, I look forward to this discussion with you. It's great. It's Spain. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Good
2 o'clock in the morning. And you're near Barcelona somewhere?
No, I'm way down south, a place, the way to describe it, it's a city, nearby city called Cadiz, and it's a strait, Gibraltar Strait, that goes into the Mediterranean. I'm in a place called San Fernando. It's very close to the base, the military base here called Rota, Spain, or Rota Naval Base.
So I'm just curious, what's a wonderful patriot of the United States like you doing in a place like Spain?
Well, I'll tell you what, I married a Spaniola. I married a beautiful woman a few years back when I was over here in Spain in the military, and I had no plans of getting married, enjoying my single life, but it just happened that way, and we got married. That was several years ago, and now I come back once a year, and the Navy Education Department had me come back, and so I can provide, a DEA background. This is really important to the law enforcement community, our military guys that want to go on law enforcement, and also I do a little recruiting for them, and which I enjoyed, and of course the Spanish life too. I'll mix it with that.
All right, so the lifestyle agrees with you, huh?
Well, at my age, it's kind of catching up with me now, but I love the lifestyle.
Got extra long siestas in there? Is that what goes on?
Yes, exactly. Yes, it is.
Okay, so I understand because we talked a little bit earlier last week. that basically you
Yeah,
are training or educating the military there in Spain for certain things.
that's correct.
What are you teaching them about or to do?
I can teach us almost any subject because of the career that I had with DEA and working narcotics. When you work narcotics on the streets, you're getting exposed to every kind of crime out there. One of the first, even though I was a DEA agent, but I had the opportunity to be involved in a case where we witnessed two individuals that were doing a bank robbery in San Diego, and I thought, wow, this is going to be a great career. But what I do now, Michael, I provide that experience and that training that I had with DEA to the students that want to get out and go into law enforcement. They want to become cops, and I do explain to them it's not what it used to be. It's totally changed among law enforcement. We had a CHP officer just got killed here in California, and there's a lot of things going on, and I explain that to the military students. Which let me say, Michael, real quick, I wish the American people can see our military here. We are the greatest. I'm telling you, I don't say this because I travel a lot, but we do have a great military, and I'm so proud of these young people. And it's just an honor to be with the Marines and the Navy and so on. But anyway, I can go on and on about the Marine Corps and about the Navy and the Air Force. But as Americans back home, and Michael, you mentioned what the politicians are doing, and I don't want to get jumping too far ahead, but they are hurting our country, just hurting our country, and so on.
Originally it was supposed to be limited government. Um, talk about
Yeah.
cartels and breaking up cartels. You ought to break up the Senate cartel. They should all go back to the state
Hmm.
houses where they belong and where they originally were at until the constitutional amendment kind of made them all kind of congregate into that lovely place we now call the swamp. And
That's
uh,
right.
I think if you actually disperse them, you'd probably get more done than how things are right now. Um, I,
Mhm.
I don't think you could be living in this country right now. Well, maybe you can. I still think Americans are intelligent, but I sometimes I'm not sure. That's just how it is. But you'd figure just about anyone who's been in this country, living in this country recently, knows that there is an intense epidemic of narcotics and trafficking of all type flowing across our southern border and happening right within our own midst.
Yes, sir.
And no
Yes,
one talks
yes.
about it. No one mentions
That's
it.
right.
I didn't hear any of those
That's right.
Democratic hopefuls uh, talk about anything like this. They're concerned with slaves and slave trade that happened 150 years ago, whereas we should be concerned
Right.
really with what's going on now. Now,
Absolutely.
I want to
Absolutely. Yeah.
know from you, in terms of narcotics
Hmm.
um, and how media presents that to the United to people to the constituency of the United States, which they do very very little. Are they candy coating things? Are they providing a lot of misinformation? What really goes on? Like, what would be your average day? You get up and what? And I don't mean
Well,
now. I
working
mean
with
when you were involved
uh,
with DEA down and
ex-
trying to bust cartels.
exactly, exactly. Every day was incredible to be working with DEA, and I say that in a very positive way. It was very fortunate to be with DEA, but our hands were tied. It was extremely. When I say our hands were tied, it all depends on who's going to be the president of the United States, and each one has a different policy how they're going to focus on drugs or certain things. I worked that border in Southwest, and you did mention the previous about human trafficking. I tell a lot of people that what I experienced throughout my career, and I spent 6 years on and off down in Mexico and 3 years in Colombia. And it's in the book. I'm not here trying to promote the book, but it's a true story, and it's out there. And I explain to them that small children, those children that are coming across that border today, Michael, are not children, okay? And the American public, they don't know that, but our politicians know that. The Border Patrol agents out there, those are unbelievable people that are working so hard at what they're doing, and they know the truth. And the truth is, those kids are not kids. A lot of those young girls, Michael, they lost their virginity many years ago. As soon as they go to that cycle, and boys, I've seen 4-year-old beautiful little girls in a place in Colombia that were abused out there on the streets. And I even had my informants try to get me involved, trying to save one little girl that was 12 years old. And I went through the process. went through the DEA, went through the Assistant U.S. Attorney's Office, and I was told to back off, more or less, that I couldn't do anything because it's always about your career. You got to know when to back off. If you don't, you're going to not be able to get promoted, or you're not going to be able to move around so much. But there's so much to cover, Michael, that I have seen in the 24 years. You're talking about drugs coming out of use. I tell you right now, as we're speaking, they are flooding our homes. Excuse me, that was the wind blowing. I'm sorry. We got a strong wind over here. But that is so much that's going on that people don't realize they're flooding the markets with narcotics because they see what this president's trying to do right now. And so they're human trafficking and so on. But we do have, Mike, you hit it right on the nose. We do have a serious problem, and it's not going to get better until something happens to what we have with these politicians on both sides now. But we got to have somebody strong leadership.
Well, I'm looking at some statistics from the Center for Disease Control, and they said basically I'd say about 17 years, from 2000 to 2017, 700,000 people dying from drug overdoses. That number,
that's right,
since 2017 is going to be way, way larger. And it just keeps on going. And, you're talking about legal and illegal opioids in this particular article here, but it's,
right.
People are very concerned, as they should be, about protection and about all these crazy shootings. But about 140 Americans die every single day from a narcotic overdose.
Michael, yeah, exactly. When I came back from Colombia, I went down to Colombia for about 3 years, almost 3 years. When I came back, I'm sort of the old guy, more or less, because things were changing on the streets. We couldn't get that aggressive approach. If someone does something, don't listen to your commands, hey, put your hands in the air. In the old days, if someone didn't do that, we made sure they put their hands in the air, and we get them down. But things were different in our agency, and they asked me to work the pharmaceutical company. To go out and target pharmaceutical companies, doctors, and because the Oxycontin was beginning to really get bad on the streets. And I was incredible what I learned so much, that these doctors in their lab coats, and we worked undercover. I sent people in the doctor's office. But I come down to one thing, Michael. It's all about the money. It's the money of greed and they never get enough of it. And there's some great doctors, but there's always those doctors out there that look for that money, and they just push those drugs. They're no different, Michael, from a cartel, except they're pushing opiates. They're pushing the pharmaceutical drugs, so Oxycontin and Vicodin.
Sure. It looks like Florida, as you know, is like probably the pain kill capital of the United States. So it's weird what goes on. I got to tell you, I mean, by trade, I'm a semi-retired dentist. And so obviously I dealt a lot with giving people narcotic drugs. The last few years, the DEA decided that drugs like Vicodin and Percocet had too much acetaminophen, which is Tylenol in them. And because of that, I'm getting a call. Let me see. You want to take a call with me? Let's see what's going on. Let me see how we can do that. We'll all listen to each other here. Hi, how you doing? You're calling the Michael Blum Show. What's up tonight?
Yeah, as y'all talk about drugs, I like to know about the pain clinics, that people pay money to go to the pain clinics.
Well, cool, because that's exactly what we're talking about. We're just going to actually talk about pain clinics themselves. There's not much to say about them. As Larry was saying, that there are some doctors that are honest and do a good job, and there are people that need help in this regard. And then there's those that just want to make a buck. And all they're going to do is make a buck and sell drugs. And if they hurt someone in the process, so be it. It doesn't make a difference to them. So anyway, thank you for calling, by the way, caller. In Florida, we've seen like different waves of drug activity over the last decade that's been staggering. You have the prescription drug deal going on. And then for some reason, and you'd probably know better than, I'm sure you know better than me, there's been a rise all of a sudden in the popularity of heroin. And now you have every single synthetic opioid and crazy things and flakka and all sorts of really horrific stuff going in. And
Yes,
I'm getting
sir.
another phone call. Do you want to do phone calls or should I shut that off? Tell me, Larry. What do you think?
No, we can do. That's up to you, Michael. We can do both.
All right, all right. Let me just go ahead and get this person then on.
Go for it.
Hey,
Yeah,
how you doing?
if you are.
You're on the Michael Blum Show. We're talking here about drugs with Larry Hardin.
Yes, we was talking about the clinic just a few minutes ago. How
Oh,
can the government actually do drug clinics? I know people that has been using drug clinics for 25, 30 years, and they still on drugs, but yet go through drug clinics.
you have any answer for that, Larry?
Well, I tell you the reason why they keep going back is that because it's given to them free. You know, this morphine, this other when you talk about heroin, is supposed to get them off of it or certain medication. A lot of time they go back and they get it. Well, for example, let me give you this little quick scenario here. We had a lady one time. She was definitely she was a cancer patient, but she was doctor shopping. What I call doctor shopping. She was going to 4 different doctors, okay, in San Diego. And we followed her around, and we bought one, I think it was a 40 milligram of Oxycontin. I paid $50 for that pill. Now, think for a second what she was doing. She was taking a capsule, the capsule itself, the container, and she was getting 30 pills for each capsule. And with that, she turned around and sell that, not to on this side of the border, but she took it down to Tijuana, and she was trading that for the heroin. And finally, when we arrested her, because I was going after the doctors that was giving it to her, and she was telling us that she'd rather take heroin because she was scared of Oxycontin, and so on. But that's just one of many examples. A lot of them would take the narcotics, they would take the pills, and they would sell it and make a profit off of it, or they would trade it for something else. And that's what we was experiencing so much.
Sure. The pain clinics is a lot of people start that way. I imagine that's one of the biggest ways of entree into all this kind of horror is you had an accident, you were placed on narcotics, and now you're having an issue getting off of them.
Right.
Right. That's it. I was going back to what I was saying originally before the first call is that the government decided to get rid of the large amount of Tylenol, if you will, in the narcotics. And to compensate for the loss of Tylenol, they raised the amount of narcotic in the drug. So this is their answer
but Michael,
this is their answer to the complaint that people are having liver problems from taking too much Tylenol.
The worst kind of drug that I experienced in my lifetime working with narcotics, and for a long time, the street life was my life. When I say my life, I loved it out there. I love working with the prostitutions and the homeless people. Most of them that I encountered were very good people. They just lost their way in life, couldn't deal with the pressures of life, and so on. And they know the streets very well. The most filthiest drug that I ever dealt with was methamphetamine. I'd rather see if a person's going to do drugs, which they shouldn't do any drugs at all. Believe it or not, heroin is more passive, very addictive, but it's very dangerous now with the fentanyl. But the heroin is very passive. But when someone is on methamphetamine, it is highly addictive, and it starts eating you up inside. And the people that I encountered the very first time when I came back from Colombia, I'm sitting down with some investigators, DEA. I'm with them because I pack a weapon. I'm an agent. And so I'm there in case there's any problems. As they were interviewing this patient that had a back injury, and you hit it right on the nose, Michael, I looked at him, and he had every symptom that you can imagine of heroin. And that's how naive I was about Oxycontin when I came back from Colombia, because I was chasing cocaine in the labs and so on. But I asked him, I said, how long have you been on heroin? This is a patient. He looked at me, and he said, what are you talking about? I never had been on heroin. I'm using Oxycontin. And I realized this stuff is dangerous. It's incredible what it's doing to people's lives. In the plain clinics, they don't know how to handle that because doctors are here to help you. But I tell you what, Michael, when I have sent informants, okay, we take them down to CVS or I take them to the Walgreens, and I tell them, I said, we're going to check your pressure, and there's a reason why, and your weight, because that's the first thing they do when you go into a doctor's office. That gives the doctor more of a leeway, sort of, if your blood pressure is high or if it's low, And listen, our blood pressure changes all the time. Yours right now, or mine's probably up because I'm talking to a live radio talk show. So, but the doctors use that in a bad way, and some will use it in a good way. But I had informants. When I say informants, people working with us will go in and they come out with a bag of pills. And I said, "What are you doing?" They said, "Well, the doctor said I got this problem and so on." And he came out with a bag of pills and we couldn't. It's just it's very hard to control it when you don't have certain groups of politicians stand behind you.
What do you think would be harder to control? The situation that you just mentioned with doctors who pretty much
You
are,
can't.
is that harder to control than drug cartels?
Yes, it is, Michael. That is true. Michael, I tell you what I experienced down in Colombia, once again, I'm telling you, I hope everybody, I don't know who's listening, but we are very, very good at what we're doing. And we're some good people in this country. And we can really end this thing. We can stop it. We really can if we do the enforcement the way our laws, just like the immigration. The laws are already there. The Congress has approved them. But what really disturbs me, and I have sit down with Senator McConnell. I have sit down with him. I have watched him down in Colombia talking to the ambassador. I mean, it's all politics. Very, very nice guy. Very nice guy. But he's very, very political. You have to be political when you're dealing with in that political world. But it sounded like, it's the first time I had a chance to talk to you and you're talking to me. I do not play politics. I can never will. I'm a straight shooter. And that's just the way, you'll see that in the book. That's the way I was raised in Kentucky. I was raised by my parents and my grandparents. And I was very fortunate to have the kind of family I had. And so it carried with me. And there was times in my life, Michael, I couldn't understand why there was so much evil and the way people are hurting each other and killing it. And standing next to a friend, my body, his body. So I asked many times, is there so much evil in this world? There has to be some goodness. And the goodness is there. And that's what kept me sort of straight in life. It kept me balanced. And also my wife and going back home and seeing family. But if you're telling me, and I feel like I am professional. I worked those years on the streets. I see what's going on. Can we stop it? Yes. How can we stop it? And I say this very strongly and loudly. You got to kill the drug trafficker. You got to kill him. He's no good. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky. When a dog tastes blood, okay, my dog one time named Pepper, when he tried to kill that pig, and I hope you always realize this is not a funny story. Okay, I was 12 years old. My dad took the shotgun. He killed my dog because he had to. When a dog tastes blood, okay, they're no good anymore. And it's hard for a human being if he takes the life of another person so easily. Okay, you've got to have punishment for that individual. By sending him into prison, okay, where he goes and he gets his college education or rehab and so on, it's very difficult. Okay, maybe I'm too harsh, but I've seen enough in my lifetime that I'm alive today because I learned how to stay alive.
Sure. Like people think sometimes there's a magic pill or something that's just going to fix everything up.
No.
And usually the answer to most of these problems are multifaceted. You can't just do one thing. Like you said, the people who are selling drugs, they should know if they sell drugs, they're in prison forever. Period. End of the story. And that's how it would go. They're done. They're done. I'm going to take one more phone call, and let's see what we can do. Hello, Michael Blum Show. What's up?
Hey, y'all talking about it needs to be stopped. What would be the good way to try to stop the drugs? I mean, where would Mr. Hardin would begin to try to stop the drugs?
Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, that sounded like the same lady that was on.
Yes, and please, a lady caller. I appreciate the call, but we usually try to keep it one call a show. And thank you for turning your radio down or whatever you were listening to. It's much clearer. But go ahead and I guess so you could ask, what can we do? We're starting to. Yeah, that's the question we're working on right now.
Let me tell you something. I'm sorry.
Where would you start at to try to control the drugs? I mean, where are they coming in? At what border?
Okay, the question's okay. Working the border, there's several ports of entry out there, like Tijuana Port of Entry or San Luis Port of Entry. We have everything in place as I'm talking to you now. We got a great enforcement team there. It's called Border Patrol agents. I worked with those guys for years. If they let them do their job, if they let DEA, let people do their job that they're trained to do, we can really put the screws to these guys coming across. But here's the problem. After all these years of fighting this so-called war on drugs, and there is no such thing war on drugs, that is over with. That is a myth that I believed in. When I got into it, I realized we just can't do anything because our laws are not forcible. When you, Michael, you get a chance, or anyone, when you read a book, you're going to see a case that was lost over and over and over because the politics was involved. Because I couldn't go after these particular cartel guys because they were protected, because they were providing information to another agency or country. Okay? True. It's all there. But once again, how we stop it, we have to be really serious about it. But our politicians are not. They are not serious about it, Michael. If they were, we can stop this a long time ago. And these kids, Michael, I can stress that. People say, do we need a border wall to stop these drugs? Yes, but also protect the people that are coming up here. The churches are putting millions of dollars, organizations, to bring these people up here. They don't know. They just don't know what they're facing as they traffic on their way up here in our country. I asked a woman one time in Mexico, Michael, why she carried Vaseline with her. Okay? And I thought because of the hot sun. She said no. What they do, the women down there in those countries, and listen, there's some great people all over this world, but corruption is unbelievable. We focus our attention in other countries. We have a major problem in this country because every time we go after somebody, I found out where the leak was coming from, why we could not catch anybody. There's two things. One is because their families now are in the United States, they're in law enforcement. And so when DEA does an operation, and especially we're working in another group of local law enforcement people that are assigned to us, they have access to our databases. And there's another thing called discovery, Michael. As you know, and I know that, when you take a mule, I call a mule that's so much trafficking, a low-level trafficking drugs, they have a due process in this country. And I've seen those documents in Mexico. I've seen them in Colombia. And I told my agency about it several years ago. I said, this is a lost cause. When I look down and see boxes, you know, FBI calls it 203s or whatever, 103, DEA call it DEA 6s. These are reports. And when I've seen boxes and boxes of reports, okay, in the cartel's homes or in Bogota, and with the names of agents, the names of the bad guys, the names of, well, the numbers to the informants, you know, and describes the method of how they traffic drugs in the United States and so on. That's why we never could get ahead, because of the corruption that we have. And the lady just mentioned about how can we stop it? We can't stop it. You're hearing it from a guy, Michael. I spent too many years at it, and we just can't stop it until we get serious about it, until we finally realize, wait a minute, if that individual is killing people with that heroin fentanyl, that person just forfeit their life. Maybe it's too strong, Michael, but that's...
Yeah, you'd exterminate then. You'd go ahead and just rid the world. It's kind of like, do you let cancer spread? How do you approach the cancer? Do you treat it or do you cut it out if you can? You know.
Exactly. It is. If not, it's going to happen anyhow, Michael. It's going to happen. I sit down with several, you know, and we talk about it. Our country start taking a turn. As you just mentioned, at the beginning of your program, we have a lot of American people. When I say Americans, that never travel outside this country. The people that I know personally that did it the right way to come into our country, took a process, those are great Americans. I'm not saying the illegal aliens coming across, but when they break the law and they come across and all they're doing is getting handouts, that is going to be tough to make them into great Americans, okay? Especially when their culture is still the culture where they're from.
Sure.
I've known people that came into our country, will tell you right now, I might be from Spain, I might be from Greece, but I love America. Okay, and I talked to too many of them, Michael.
It's sad. It's sad when you tell me, as a professional, that there really is no way to do it. But as a relatively free market capitalist, I understand there's a market for it, and someone will supply that market.
Yes.
It's just that
yes, it is.
You want to try to limit your casualties along the way, because there certainly will be a bunch of them. Why did you write the book that you did?
Well, this is interesting about the book. When I got, you know, this is my job. This is the way I go after people. And I had these two, as you mentioned, the two PIs, the two investigators, Randy and Jeff. They worked on a case with me very closely. Those two guys are the two guys I trust because the corruption just was, I worked with some really nice people, but it was too corrupted. It was always a family relative working at the port of entry or someone in the law enforcement community. And so these two guys, I developed a trust with them. We covered each other. I never done that with PIs, but these two guys, I did. And several years, about 5 years later after I retired, because you got to sign a contract. You got to sign a where you cannot write any books or talk about anything until 5 years after you retire. In other words, just go away. Well, after 5 years, Jeff and Randy got in touch and said, we need to find somebody. And it took us a long time. And we found Diana DeMille. And I tell you what, she has been really helpful to us. This is her first time she got involved with this kind of work. And she's fascinated with it because, like most people, she didn't realize this was happening. Well, we put this book together, and I thought, I'm not a writer. I just deal with the facts. If I'm going to put you in jail, I stick with the facts. Well, next thing I know, the book is doing very well, and someone said, Larry, or Diana did, you need to take a look at the reviews, which I did. And it's incredible. I am talking to a Vietnam veteran, said the same thing. He told me, he said, look, what happened in Vietnam is the same thing that you describe in your book. It will never be, it can't win it because the politicians are involved in it. And I thought, wow, he's right. He's absolutely right. So the book is doing very well. It came out in Spanish about 3 weeks ago. It came into the bookstores in Spain over here. They're selling out really quick. It's incredible. And now I just got another book, a second book, that's called Fighting My Greatest Enemy. And that goes into more detail about my faith. And I dedicate that to my faith. What to my faith? I dedicate to God. Because I learned, Michael, whether you don't believe or not, when you say there's evil, there is goodness out there, and I have met it. And it took me a hard way to learn that, but there is a God, Michael. You might describe it in a different way you want to, but there is, and I experienced that, and it's in the book. But now listen, Michael, listen, I am a warrior. When I say that, I am a warrior. I have no problem if someone's trying to hurt me or hurt anyone else around me. I will take care of business. Okay. And that's what we have today in our law enforcement. We've got some great people, Michael, except they're just being abused right now by the public.
They're being very abused, very abused. It's whatever could conceivably be good for the country seems to be what's in what the left really doesn't like at all. So law enforcement's no good.
That's
so
right.
You know what? Maybe all law enforcement should take off for like a month. Just take a vacation, not do anything. People, again, I hate to use the statistic this way, but all the killing that we had in the last 2 weeks, take the number of people shot in those events, and that's a good day in Chicago.
Right.
I mean, it's things are just,
and that's sad.
Things are
Baltimore,
just,
Michael. I mean, Baltimore.
Well, Baltimore, Baltimore, I think is now the crime capital of the world. You have, I don't want to get too political today, but obviously you have folks out there. Why don't you do some research? Look at the worst cities in the United States.
Exactly.
And then see who runs them. And what you will find is that I don't know, I can't think of one that isn't like this, but most cities that have been perpetually run by the Democrats for 30 to 40 to 50 years in some cases are the exact same places where you'll see the most poverty, the worst education, the most violent crime, the worst schools, the worst housing, the worst of everything. And why people in those areas continue to vote the same way that they do, it's kind of, to me, it's like voting for a horse you know is going to lose. It's
That's right.
I don't get
Mark.
it. You keep on putting your money down on the horse that's heading to the glue factory. That's just not going to happen. Not going to work. But people do.
I agree with you 100%. I don't understand what's happened to her, but we are taking a turn. And, I tell you what, Michael, I want to mention this. I sent a book. I never sent a book but I sent a book this time to the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief. He is our Commander-in-Chief over here. I sent him, and I got can you believe this? I got a letter from him that he read the book, and it was just encouraging to get something from a guy that people say, well, he never read it. But you know what? Whether he read it or not, he responded to it. And some of my peers, not some, but a lot of my peers told me, so Larry, book is right on, okay. And so, but anyway, it's all there. I've been in most cities, Michael. I've seen it. I described that in the book. But when I had a chance to work down in Mexico and spend 3 years down in Colombia, I tell you what, we can stop, but we're not going to stop it, Michael. We're just not. It's not right now, anyhow.
They're
And
a
I
little bit
don't
too
try to
far
discourage
gone.
people. Yes, sir. Yes, I say that, Michael. I really do. When I say I'm not talking about. I mean, no one's going to hurt us as a country. No one. I travel just like you. I wish American people could see the Rome, the way it was. I mean, it was a powerful city. Athens, Greece, or Israel. All these cities fell not because of people coming in, because they fell beginning of their morals and values, Michael, of the corruption within and the Roman Empire. The United States is going through a struggle right now. We got politicians are greed for that power and that hunger for that prestige, or and make up all kind of just lies in the news media, just the lies and the hate, no respect for each other. And this is stuff that's been portrayed out here in these countries, and it's really discouraging when you see something like that's happening in Spain. The news media focus on the American, what they hear on the news, and they report it over here. So we get a lot of bad information, but they do throughout these countries because what's been sent out from our country.
Charles, let me ask
It's
you.
just so much, Michael.
Well, ask you a question. Since you feel that really we've
Sure.
kind of lost a little bit, and we probably won't get out of this, why is your book then and this story is so important to the American people?
Because I'm dealing with corruption. The corruption, you're going to see the beginning. Well, you're going to learn something about my background. You're going to learn about not having one outhouse, but two outhouses, pumping water out of a well. You're going to see the opportunity of a person that, as my wife told me, she said, this country is the greatest country in the world. And when she came, she took off like a rocket because the opportunities are there for anybody, even for someone that grew up within, from the hollers and running the creeks there, and some beautiful, when I say beautiful, beautiful people that I know, good human beings. This is the heartland of our home, as people that I know personally that I've ran into. But when you get in these major cities of Los Angeles, we have a gang population there, Michael. I kid no one. If we ever start having problems, you're going to see these gangs come out, and they're going to hit these neighborhoods, soft targets. I mean, we're just going to have a lot of problems. But when I get back to the heartland, this book here deals with corruption. We talk about Mexico being corrupted. We talk about other countries being corrupted. We have corruption in our country, and I try to describe that in that book. And people will see that, and I think they are, and they're realizing, my gosh, this can't be true. It is true. It's a true story, and I had a hard time getting it proven. The second book is a true story.
So basically,
And
it's like we're already a banana republic. Maybe tiny bananas, but certainly a banana republic.
We got to stop it. Listen, we got to stop it, Michael. I don't know what's going to happen. I think, and listen, I know a lot of people don't like the commander in chief, but I tell you what, people in law enforcement, we do. People in the military, depends now what branch you're in. But if you're out there and you're enforcing, and you got someone that's covering your back, that's what we cover. And we feel like this guy here is doing that. A lot of people that they really appreciate, and I do too. I have a lot of respect for this guy. He's not perfect. You're not perfect, and I'm not perfect. But I tell you what, I believe in all my heart. There's a reason why he's there right now, what he's doing, and he's getting hit left and right every day.
Sure.
But I believe he's going to do fine, Mike. I'm not trying to encourage people, but he's a strong supporter in law enforcement. He's strong supporter in the military. And when our country starts collapsing around us, that's who we have to have. We've got to have some good law enforcement and good military to protect those. Yeah.
I wouldn't buy a cake from a baker that hates baking. Doesn't that make
That's a good point.
that makes sense, doesn't it? Right? You wouldn't
That
go
makes
to
sense. Yes, it does.
you wouldn't go to a priest who actually doesn't really like Christianity that much. Um,
Amen. Yeah.
Yet we have no problem electing officials to run this country that really don't like the United States too much. And they say it,
That's right.
the founding was
Oh
wrong.
yeah.
This is wrong. I'm going to start my career off here as president by apologizing. Let's do well, why does someone apologize? You apologize because you
That's
did
right.
something wrong. What did we do wrong?
That's
We're the
right.
most generous country in the
That's right.
world,
Yes,
you
we
know?
are. Amen. We truly are. You're hardly got to work these countries. We are a good heart. We protect these people. I mean, really. Quick story. One time I flew out in the jungle down in Colombia. I came in second. As we came, because Americans, we can't go in first because they're going to do things that we cannot witness, because it's violating certain human rights. But when myself and a guy by the name of Frank Marino, he got killed down there. He's an agent. He got killed, took a round in the chest. But when we flew into second, came into second, and we blew the tin off the guy's home. But I noticed as we getting ready to land, this little man with a hat and scarf and a machete was standing there. He was circled by 12 or 14 Colombian federales. And as soon as we land, as I stepped off the helicopter, he broke away from that circle. He ran to me. He put his arms around me. I mean, this guy was running to me for protection, Michael, and that was incredible. So, and that's experience that we have throughout the world. You hit it right on the nose, Michael. We are generous. We're a great country. But Americans that never travel the world, that stays there, they're destroying property, they're destroying human lives, they're hurting each other. That is not good for our country. And when no one's enforcing that, it's almost like the other half is encouraging it, Michael.
It's you mentioned something before, and it about gangs, and
Yeah.
I live in a
Yeah.
relatively affluent area in Palm Beach County. It's probably one of the more wealthy areas in the United States. But
Mhm.
when there's a hurricane or there's some thing that knocks out
Mhm.
power, the uh, the streets become filled with cockroaches that have come out of the woodwork, and
Mhm. That's right.
it's not a matter of them trying to protect themselves or get food for their houses because the refrigerators aren't working. They're walking around with flat panel TVs. They're walking
Yeah.
around with
Something. Yeah.
whatever they can grab, and because they'll sell it at some point in time. Now, there's another
That's
ilk
right.
that comes out to rob you or to do damage to you
That's
personally
right.
in your house.
Right.
And those are
That's
those
right.
gangs that we would never really deal with where I am, um,
Mhm.
unless there was some true breakdown in law enforcement,
That's
which
right.
happens obviously if you have a hurricane. You can't do anything, get around. It's difficult
Mhm.
to help people.
Mhm.
So
New Orleans. Yeah. Katrina.
yeah, New
Exactly.
Orleans, of course. So
Yeah.
I get a bit flustered because I own firearms. I purchased them
Mhm.
legally. I've had background checks done. I lock them
Mhm.
up when they're not in use. I go to the fire. I go to the range to fire them off when I want to or need to practice. And I'm a law-abiding citizen. I have never committed a felony, yet it seems that every single time one of these shootings takes place, the
Mhm.
first thing the
Mhm.
government wants to do is take away the guns that I have.
Mhm. Mhm.
And when they do that,
Yeah.
they don't want to deal with the Crips. They don't want to deal with the gangs down in Overtown in Miami
Mhm.
or in Liberty City in Miami. They
Mhm.
don't. The police don't even want to go there. And when
That's
those
right.
people come out,
Yeah.
what happens? Now,
Mhm.
I'll be a law-abiding citizen. If the law changes and I got to hand in my guns, I'll hand in my guns. But when those people come to confront me, it's my ass that's on the line, no one else's. So I gotta
But
say,
it's not on you.
uh,
It's your family, Michael. It's your
yeah.
family. It's your wife. It's your daughters. In the
So
state of
it's
California.
yeah. So
Yeah.
as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned, that ain't gonna happen. I've said on
Yeah.
past shows that right now you've heard of the Cold War. Well, right now we're having a cold civil war, and
Mhm. That's right.
I don't know
That's
where
right.
it'll end, but I'm hoping it'll end on the side of justice. Um,
If
I
if we keep going the way we're going, I think we might get there. Select the kind of judges that we need. We need to get back, as you know, man. I'll tell you what, your open statement there. I feel very comfortable talking to you because we need to come back. We need to come back to our morals and values. how we treat each other, how we respect each other, and so on. You know, in San Diego, I teach at one of the universities, and I get a lot of Camp Pendleton Marines. I get 32nd Street Navy guys, a lot of different mixture. And I tell them, I said, guys, because we're from Texas, here in California, it's a different world. If someone comes into your house, you're eating popcorn with your wife and your daughters. If you looked up and seen two guys standing in your house, okay, you cannot shoot them. You cannot do that. Only way you can point your gun and tell them leave your house if they're threatening you. But let's say they walk over and pick up your TV and turn and walk out. You still cannot shoot. In California, a human life, no matter how bad the individual is or what country he's from or her, you cannot take the life of another person, okay? But I always thought that if someone came into my home, you know, they're not there just to rob me. They're going to do harm to my family. And I tell these guys, and they know that. Okay, people will rob you when no one's around, but now people are coming inside your homes. Okay, we had a case out there. I've been hearing from some of my buddies. The individual was killed like 4 people. He broke into their homes, but he didn't rob. They killed. Okay, or they're going to take advantage of your children or your wife, and so on. But I teach them that. I said, guys, I teach them also daily force. I teach them when to shoot and not to shoot. Okay, you're right, Michael. You just said it. It's your butt that's on the line. It's your family. That's what they call that castle. It's your home. This is your last place that you got to protect. And I tell the students, I said,
I'm
look,
thankful in Florida, there's a castle law, which basically says a man's house or a woman's house is their castle. And in the state of Florida, you don't even need to have a license to have a firearm in your house. You have to go ahead and get the background checks and all the other stuff to purchase it, but you don't need to have a concealed weapons license in your house. Anyone who comes into your house, in your domain, without permission or for whatever reason, you don't need to go ahead and actually even have a reason. You could go ahead and defend yourself against them. I think in Florida,
California.
In Florida, it also, I think, applies to someone in your car. But outside of the house, if you're carrying conceal and you're walking around with that, you have that license, you're held to a slightly different standard. And that sounds a little bit more similar to California. I can have some guy at a gas station come over to me and seem very, very threatening and all of that, and I can't even take the gun out. Now, if he comes over to me with a tire iron, then I can do, then I can do what whatever I need to do. But and the court of law decides who followed the law or broke the law. I guess that's the best way.
You know, Michael, we're talking about firearms. When I spent 3 years almost in Colombia, I've worked with a lot of individuals down there. I had a chance to go to Medellin and Cali and so on. I met cops that were shot and they survived. And when I came back after almost 3 years in San Diego, we were doing a training out there at a location on firearms. I tried to explain the firearm instructor and several DEA supervisors that, look, if we ever encounter these guys, these assassins, what I call these punks or whatever, these guys are going to kill quickly, okay? They don't hunker down. They don't take cover. They charge into you, okay? And so these are the kind of people that are living in our country. They're here. I mean, they are here. They do their crime in Mexico, other countries, and they come up here and they live a good life. And I know, Michael, and these guys kill quickly. You pull your weapon on somebody, you better do it quickly. If you hesitate with these guys, you're going to lose. And when you lose, your family's going to lose. And
well, I was trained.
Michael,
I was trained if you're going to show the gun, you're going to shoot it. You don't take the gun out. You take the gun out to shoot it. That's it. You don't go ahead and wave it around. You don't threaten people with it. You take it out and you shoot it.
That's right. Absolutely right. Absolutely. Well, you take it out and try to apprehend them. Get your hands. I don't want to say this on the air, but my mom asked me one time. She said, Larry, they call me Larry because that's a Southern. But she said, Larry, how do you get someone to raise their hands in the air? How do you stop someone? And she kept telling me that. And finally, I jumped up, pulled my finger, and I used the F word, but it's street language. You just can't. It's not like TV. You cannot say, sir, can you get your hands in the air? Just turn around. It doesn't work that way. If you show any weakness at all with the culture that are coming in our country, these bad guys that grew up on the streets in El Salvador, the MS-13 and so on, you're going to lose that battle. and that's just the way it is.
Sure.
And it's sad, but you have to be ready to go. So you're right about that. You show your weapon. You need to detain. You can't make the arrest, but as a citizen, you can arrest that individual if you got that PC, the probable cause. You got to be clear on that. I tell the students all the time, you want to be a good citizen, you want to help people, but make sure the crime is committed in front of you, okay? Because you cannot take the hearsay for someone else because of lawsuits and so on. It's changing so much. But once again, Michael, I learned so much that if you're going to have a weapon, it's a tool. It's something that you need to know how to use it. You learn it. And I teach it, believe it or not, I have that in the classroom. As part of, if I'm teaching terrorism, street communication, whatever the subject is, I spend time on that, and so on. There's a way that you have to carry it, and there's a time when you have to use it. And people say, well, what do you mean by that? I'm telling you, it's violence on violence. It's a behavior that you will have in your mind, Michael. If you ever pull that on another person, it's to me, it's violence on violence. You have to do whatever you can to stay alive, especially if you encounter the kind of people that are coming across that border that are up here right now. In California, I'm going on, but there's a guy there, the way he killed the cops. It's American citizens, but there's people coming up here and they don't hesitate to kill a cop, someone that's carrying that badge, that's trying to protect us. And as you said, Michael, they're getting abused every moment as we're talking. I've seen videotapes. I have seen it with a captain out there in San Diego showed us a videotape. My buddies are thieves. When I say thieves, are FBI. We're a mixture of everything. We marshals, we all sit around. He shows a videotape. One of his officers was sucker punched. He was protecting the crowd. Someone ran out of the crowd and came up and punched him. Look at the water bottles that's going on up in New York. Michael, it's just, I tell the Marines, I tell the people over here in Spain, it's not what you think it is, guys, of Law Enforcement Day. You know, it's not what you think of wearing that uniform. You know, our country is changing. It's changing quickly.
And what'll happen when it's not water anymore in those bottles? What'll
How do
happen
we know
next
it's not
time?
water, Michael?
You know, what'll happen next
Exactly.
time when it'll maybe be some human excrement and then maybe lye or acid,
Mm,
like what goes
that's
on in
right.
England.
That is
If
absolutely
you
right.
let them just
That's,
pummel the police and throw water bottles at them and laugh about it or think it's cute or funny, then you have a problem. You know, it's
well, well, yeah, yeah.
people are just odd. You know,
My head is off to you, Michael. Yeah.
well, my
My,
hat is off to you.
I think.
I'm sitting here in my
No.
little home studio.
I never. I look. Yeah. Yeah, but I'd like to meet you. I really would. But listen, I'm telling you, I cannot stand in front of another politician, especially the ones we have now. There's no way in the world I can be polite. I mean, I'll do all due respect. But now what I've seen to what they're doing to our country, I have no respect for that. I really don't. I'd rather deal with a homeless person or a prostitute. I'd rather deal with the human beings that are out there. But the politicians we're having today, they're putting a bad taste in the part of the American. We just got a bad taste. And the news media is not helping that. They're putting that gas on the fire. Look at what they're doing. As you just mentioned about the Russia thing. Oh my gosh, how so sad. And now they're going racist. You know, and you just said it. American people are not dumb. We're smart. There's a lot of good people out there, and they see what's going on.
You know, sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think USA is United Stupid Assholes. You know, I mean, it's just, uh,
I'm laughing because you're honest about it.
you know,
It's not the average, Michael. It's not
and
the average people, Michael.
yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
not.
that's true.
I've been. It's not. We got, as you've seen, the heartland of this country. Man, I tell you what, that's going to bring this country back. Okay, I really believe that. I met them in Kentucky. I met them throughout the country. That is the values of family, the values of life. I mean, they might say, well, he's a good old country boy from the hollers. But let me tell you something. He's the first one that's going to pick up his weapon, and he's going to be the first one to fight for this country.
No, I
Okay,
understand
and those are the
you're
yeah.
deplorable and irredeemable. I think is, uh, and of course you're a male, so you must be sexist. And since you're white, you're a Nazi as well. You know, and so
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Yeah,
In real life, I
yeah,
don't experience that. I got to tell you that. That seems to be a political issue. I deal with, I'm in Florida. I'm dealing with Hispanics all the time. I'm dealing with black people all the time. There's a large Haitian
yeah,
population here. No one's come up to me and has hated me, or acted like
yeah,
that. So I'm hoping that a lot
yeah.
of what is going on in the news media, well, it definitely is like that. Many, many moons ago, you used to have to go to a newspaper like the National Enquirer, and they would give you all of this lurid, melodramatic crap and garbage. And you went to them
Hmm.
to go ahead and to learn about the crap in the garbage. And today
That's
you
right.
just got to go to NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC,
Mm-mm,
the
mm-mm,
CNN, the Communist News
mm-mm.
Network, and
Right.
all
Yeah.
sorts of other people. How did you stay safe dealing with all of the stuff that you were dealing with?
Okay, I tell you how I stay safe. I tell you right now, I'll look you right in your eyes, and I tell you, if you move, I'll blow your. I'm not gonna sit in the air, but I make it very clear. I think I stayed alive because I want to stay alive. So when I come after you, if you met me, you're gonna say, "What a I am. I am a nice guy. I truly am." But people back home will tell you that. But if you try to hurt me or someone else, I really mean that. Okay, and the way I learn, I can kill your body, but I can't kill your spirit. I do believe in that. That's how I look at it. There's only one person that can take care of that spirit, and that's the guy above us. But people know me. You see it in my eyes. For some, when I take it very seriously, when I point at you with my weapon, or I look at you and I have my weapon, and I say, if you move, I will shoot you. I don't say that in a nice way. I say it in a very direct way. Okay, and they know that. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
they know that. If I come up on you and you got a weapon in your waist, and you know I'm the guy, I'm DEA, I'm La Policia or whatever, I tell you what, you better be on the ground, because I've seen it. I've seen it happen. I heard it happen. If you got your gun point straight at someone, and you, even though that bad guy's got his weapon in his waist, if you keep talking to that individual will pull his weapon from that waist. He will shoot you between the eyes before you even get a round off. And you better take that. And that's true. And I never gave. I mean, I come close getting hurt when I first came to DEA. I had a senior agent that took care of me. I had a bad guy. I kept telling him in a nice way, get your hands outside, get me to see your hands. He was going for his 357 under his seat. Okay. Lucky for me, I had an agent that was been on the job for many years. He reached in, grabbed the guy back, his hair, and pulled him out of the car. And sure enough, he had a 357. Okay.
That's it.
You're not going to survive on the streets that way.
When I was learning, when I was taking classes for concealed weapon permit, I had
Mm-hmm.
a teacher who I had, and I have to give him a call. His name was William Ferrugia, and he was a Italian guy who was brought up in the United Kingdom, and he led me through scenarios that I don't think a lot of people went through. He made me draw a blueprint of my house. He made me say, "Well, what do you do here?" And I'd say, "Well, I'd go out the door." He goes, "What if there's a guy out there too?" He would
Mm-hmm.
present scenarios to me. And the most frightening
Right.
one is he says, you come to your house, your wife is screaming, the guy has your daughter by the neck and has a gun pointed at her head. What do you do?
Right.
And his answer was, I hope nothing like this ever happens. He says, but you immediately have to be more nuts than that person. He says,
That's
you're
what
going
I
to be
call violence
nervous.
on violence.
He says, you're going to be nervous as
Mm-hmm.
all hell. He says, so you don't want to talk. You're going to be screaming. He says, you pull out that
Right.
gun and you scream as loud as you can. You try to get as close as you can so you can pop a round off as soon as possible. And he said, but you're
That's right.
screaming and yelling, let her down. You heard her. I'm going to blow your effing head off. And that's kind of
Right.
the best you can do in that scenario. Um,
Right.
I got to tell you, it gives me the shivers to think that I would ever possibly be in a scenario like that. And I have to thank you for allowing yourself to be put into situations like that to help protect people in the United States, many of whom really don't appreciate it at all. But
No, they don't. No, they don't.
I
I
want to
appreciate the
thank you.
Border Patrol agents, ICE.
Yeah,
Yeah.
ICE, Border Patrol agents. If all these people just packed up for a weekend, it would be horrible because the actual people who live in those communities, um,
Yeah.
they're the ones I think that suffer the worst because you'd have no police there to help them out with anything. So it's kind of crazy.
Michael, I hope you come see me in San Diego. I'll take you out there and show you what they call the path of the devil. It's a mountain. I will take you and show you, and let you experience. If you haven't seen it, you're going to. Most American people should go down to the border and they should see what's happened down there. I mean, it's getting better with the wall and certain things, but I mean, people's got to experience it. And listen, please take care of yourself. Make sure. What is your wife's first name? If you go into the house, and you say, hey, and she tells you, if she gives you another name besides your real name, then you know she's in trouble. Same with your daughters.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start preparing yourself. I tell people in the classroom, practice. You get in a situation like that, someone grabs your daughter, you do not let your gun go. You do not let you drop your gun and throw your hands up. Okay, I give up. Now he's got all three of you, okay, or all
Sure.
four of you.
Sure.
No, it's violence. You're absolutely right. Scream, get mad, just spit, do what you have to do because you want to live and you want your family to live.
Absolutely.
Because that son of a gun that's got, okay.
So look, I want to thank
it's
you
a
for
pleasure.
joining me.
Let
It's
me tell
3
you,
o'clock
it's a pleasure.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning
No,
where
thank
you are.
you.
So you must be a little bit tired, I figure. Where's the book available?
Not now. I'm not tired. Actually, it's all over Amazon. It's going to be, I just heard now it's going to go to Japanese. They want to take the book and translate it to Japanese. We have a Spanish a publisher over here. He wants it now. They publish a company. It's on Amazon. It's on Walmart. It's on eBay. It's out there. Kindle has it. I recommend for anyone before they buy the book, they look at the reviews, and they're going to be mad. I don't care if you're a farmer out there raising a bunch of pigs or cutting the back or somewhere, or in the White House or whatever. You read it, it's going to make you mad because it is the truth. I lost. There was no winning in this true story. That's why it's a true story.
No winners.
I lost the battle. No winners. All because of our government. Okay, and I tell you what. Let me say on the air, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you and talking to you. And you keep up the good fight, brother. I'm telling you. Okay.
Thank you so much, Larry.
Please stay in touch with me, Michael. Okay. I really like to see you. Okay.
All right. Very good. Thank you again
right,
for joining us this evening. It was really a lot of fun.
And Michael, thank you again. Thank you. Thank you.
My
Michael.
pleasure. My pleasure. Folks, we've been talking this evening to retired DEA agent Larry Ray Hardin, who wrote a book along with Jeffrey Pierce, Randy Torgerson, and Diane DeMilli. And it is called Path of the Devil, available all over. The reviews, by the way, are phenomenal on this. And there's talk of perhaps a movie. And so if you really want to get a heads up and understand why it is we seem as a nation not be able to move forward, the answer is because the politicians don't want you to. But if you want the detail behind it, you got to read the book. So anyway, I'm gonna sign off for this evening. I want to thank everyone for joining us. A couple of people that called. There was a call right near the end. I can't take it. We're just too close to the end of the show. So I want everyone to understand that everything in life truly is possible. Fewer things are probable, but one thing is certain, and that's that you're alive. So go ahead out and live life to its fullest, because tomorrow is promised to nobody. Take care, folks. We'll speak to you next time around on the Michael Blum Show.